Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PAX Marvel Heroes panel. We are here to revolutionize the free-to-play MMO. Now, you're going to be asking, who the heck are we? Well, the answer is we are Gazillion Entertainment. We're a Bay Area-based development studio made up of a whole bunch of different talented people. We have... Yeah, thank you. We have some experience with Marvel because we made a game called Marvel Superhero Squad Online, which is live right now. If you haven't played it, you should give it a go. All of your favorite Marvel heroes are there. But Marvel Superhero Squad Online is obviously aimed at a younger audience than Marvel Heroes. So we've been working for the last couple of years on something a little bit more adult. My name is Stephen Reed. I am the Director of Community and Customer Support at Gazillion. I'm also the Master of Ceremonies and also occasionally a Master of Magic because I know how to do the special hand sign. With me up on this stage here, first of all we have David Brevik, President and COO of Gazillion. You may have read some stuff on the internet recently about David. I'm just here to assure you that David is in no way a loser of any kind. David is one of the co-creators of the legendary Diablo franchise, so we're extremely glad to have him aboard. On his right, we have Matt Group, who is an associate producer. He's also our voiceover wrangler, and in case you haven't guessed, quite a dog lover. To his right, we have Josh Book, who is our art director, and also our resident giant man, because he's about 12 foot tall. And on his right, we have T.Q.JEFFERSON, who is the vice president of the games at Marvel Entertainment. He's the man who keeps us honest, make sure that we're making the best MMO that's possible. But there is one extra special guest that we have here today, and a man that I'm extremely excited to introduce to you. It took probably the most part of the panel prep to get these slides together, because you're going to see that this guy has quite a history with the Marvel franchise. Amongst many other things, he's been responsible for arguably reinventing Spider-Man, not once, but actually twice. Once in 2000 or so with Ultimate Spider-Man, and then again with Ultimate Spider-Man again, when he reinvented the character to become Miles Morales. And then he did what everyone said was impossible. He put Miles Morales in with the Spider-Man from what we like to call the 616 universe. At the same time, he completely destroyed and then reinvented from the ground up the Avengers franchise, writing just about every Avengers you care to name in the past 10 or so years, and arguably putting them on the map and setting them up to become one of the biggest grossing film franchises of all time. Along the way, and apparently in his spare time, he wrote some of Marvel's biggest event stories, including House of M, Secret Invasion, Siege, and becoming part of the brain trust that put together A versus X, Avengers versus X-Men. And again, in his copious spare time, he managed to reinvent and reintroduce some characters that we may have known and loved from the late 70s, early 80s, including Moon Knight, Spider-Woman, and Luke Cage. And now he's back at the forefront of the Marvel Universe, reinventing the X-Men in all new X-Men, which is part of the Marvel Now initiative coming later this year. Now, some of you may know this, but he has been in essentially con retirement for quite a while now. In fact, him coming out of retirement is such a big deal that people write news stories about it. But luckily for us, he shaved his beard and clipped his toenails and came out to see us. The truth that we all know is that the reality is that we've kept him locked up playing Marvel Heroes. That is when he's not berating Matt Group for doing a bad job. His name, of course, is BRIAN MICHAEL BENDIS, and please give him a thundering, rousing welcome here to PAX 2000.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for all those slides. That was very nice.
It took me a really long time. You've just written everything.
I'm sorry. All you needed was Moon Knight, according to the audience.
Yeah, Moon Knight. Mental note, put Moon Knight in game. All right, so a couple of years ago, maybe I guess 3 years ago now, the Gazillion team sat down to try and make this game, and the first thing we tried to figure out was exactly what makes a Marvel MMO. What makes an MMO specifically Marvel? And probably the biggest and the first thing that we talked about is that it had to have one heck of a lot of action. It had to have stuff being blown up, it had to have powers, it had to have fights, it had to have villains, all the kind of stuff you'd expect from a Marvel comic. I like to say, in fact I just coined this recently, that if we're making a AAA MMO, then all of those A's stand for action. Now, alongside that action thing, another really core tenet, something that got me super excited when I came onto the project was this. You play as the Marvel heroes. You do not play as sidekicks to the Marvel heroes. You do not play as imitation knockoff Marvel heroes. You play as the real Marvel heroes. So you get to play Thing, you get to play Miss Marvel, you get to play Spider-Man, you get to play Wolverine, you may even get to play Luke Cage. Who knows? And that was an extremely important part of the development process, and we're sticking by that today. Third thing that we talked about was we wanted to make sure that we had basically massive team-ups in the game. Those kind of epic confrontations that you remember from all those double-page spreads and event issues, most of which have been written by Brian, featuring all those heroes that you know and love. We wanted to get them all together in one space and have that kind of massively multiplayer experience. And then, of course, at the same time, we wanted to make sure that we told a great story. Marvel is storytellers, and this game features a great story, which is why we brought Brian on board in the first place. And we wanted to make sure that it's a story that you would feel comfortable replaying as well. So then if you put all of those things together, so we have action, you play as the Marvel heroes, you have massive team-ups and a great story. If you know anything about the game, you might be asking yourself, why exactly did we choose to make it a Diablo-like isometric game? Well, the question I would like to say is, why the hell not? Because frankly, in our opinion, action RPGs are awesome. And they're awesome for several reasons. Number one, action is built in. It's right there in the title, in fact. So there's action all the time, and quite frankly, in our opinion, hitting people never gets old, especially if you're doing it as the Hulk or as the Thing or any other one of the Marvel heroes that we've got. Something else that we've pulled from action RPGs, of course, like Diablo, is we actually have random zones, which is a real first for MMOs. The first time that one of our players enters one of our public combat zones, it gets randomized, which means that eventually it will reset, and when you come back into it, it's going to be different. Which means you're not going to get that MMO feeling of, been there, done that, I know where everything is. You get a real feeling of exploration. And it also makes the game really, really replayable. At the same time, we've put stuff into the game which we genuinely think is going to give you a good reason to team up. In this case, yes, that is a Sentinel. In fact, you can see that Sentinel in the demo that we have here on the show floor. And this is one of our open missions, where you get a chance to basically team up with other heroes and take down threats that you couldn't take down individually. And of course, speaking of those heroes, why would we want the Marvel license? Well, obviously because we get to take heroes for everyone of every stripe. There's over 8,000 characters in the Marvel back catalog, and we have only scratched the tiniest surface of them with the ones that we've announced so far. Our partnership with Marvel is obviously one of the key reasons why we're making the game in the first place, which is why I'm going to hand over to Mr. T.Q. Jefferson to talk a little bit about what we do with them.
Thanks, Stephen. So for Marvel, we've been wanting a core MMO for quite some time. We've come close a few times, but never quite grabbed the ring. And one of the things that was very important to us in the future of Marvel, especially Marvel in games, was identifying the right gameplay, the right IP, and finding the right team that can realize a game at a quality level that we require now. And for this game, it was very simple. The right gameplay is action RPG, like Steven said. Action RPG is Marvel's sweet spot when it comes to games. The variety of characters, the range of abilities, the depth of story, how they evolve, not just personally, but through their powers over time. It's really captured in action RPG format. And then the right IP, well, it's an MMO. This is the opportunity that we get to throw in everyone in the kitchen sink. So no one gets overlooked. It's just a matter of time and what the team can produce and how fast they can do it. And then obviously the team is secret identity at Gazillion. So when we were seeking out a partner, Gazillion and Secret Identity got it. They understood what our goals were. They understood what our requirements in terms of quality, in terms of execution, and they got the Marvel characters in a way that really made us feel comfortable and made us feel confident in the eventual product. So one of the great things about in MMO, and like I was speaking about that variety before, is that we can present everyone's Marvel. You may have started reading Marvel in the 80s, at which point Uncanny X-Men, John Byrne and Chris Claremont's great stories, and that team roster. Maybe you picked it up in the 90s, and Bishop and all those that character, Bishop and Gambit and those characters. Or maybe you're just picking it up now, and you're wondering why Cyclops and Wolverine hate each other so much. We can explore all of that. The size of an MMO is perfect for presenting all of those faces of our characters, right down from story to different costumes, different levels of customizability. Maybe abilities that Cyclops has now are different than before. We have the option to explore all of that. One of the great things about how we realize these characters is that our goal is to bring you approachable characters that will always feel familiar. So what that means is we're drawing from the film. A lot of people have seen Avengers. Raise your hand if you've seen Avengers. Applaud if you liked Avengers. And for some of you, that movie was your first experience of Marvel and these characters, and that's awesome. That's great. There's more to come. So we'll draw upon that. You'll see pieces of that. Maybe you'll see the costumes in there. Maybe you'll see just the way Thor speaks reminds you of how he speaks in the film. So yeah, you see the costumes right there for Cap, Hawkeye, and Black Widow. But we also delve into, we draw from animation, we draw from the comics, we'll draw from whatever is going to give us the best representation, the most mass representation of the characters possible. And we'll go deep. This is Uncanny X-Force. Not everyone knows that Wolverine has a gray and black costume and has a Wetworks team that actually goes out and sanctions people. But we do, and we think we think it's awesome, and we want to give fans what they like. We want to give you your Wolverine. So there's a great example of the translation from comic to video game. And all of that boils down to the desire to deliver to you true to character experiences. So characters that look like your Wolverine, or look like your Cyclops, look like your Captain America, that have moves that make you think, okay, I remember this comic book, or I saw this in the film. And just their speech and their powers and everything, just so you feel like you're owning a little piece of the Marvel universe. Another thing that is very core to Marvel, very true to what we try to put into all of our products is, and it's critical to our DNA, is a compelling story. Deep, deep, deep story. Some of these characters, Spider-Man's turning 50 this year, which is awesome. We've got these characters for half a century of stories, monthly stories. There's volumes and volumes of lore that we can mine and put into these games. And but we want to make the games approachable. We don't want a game where you need that 50 years in order to understand what's going on. In order to do that, you need a real writer, a real wordsmith, someone that understands how to speak to lots of varied audiences with various levels of experience with the Marvel characters. I think I've sufficiently queued up.
I think we might have somebody who fits that description.
Really? You think?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about story. Who we're going to get? Well, we're going to get this lovely grizzled man. Brian, tell us a little bit about the sort of genesis of the Marvel Heroes story, because we have this image here speaks to a lot of what the game is about. If you haven't seen this image, by the way, apart from that it's on our t-shirts but in sort of black and white format, you can pick up an awesome shirt with this design on it at the Marvel Heroes booth during PAX. But yeah, tell us a bit about how the heck we came up with the idea of Doom and the Cosmic Cube.
Well, for years, me and T have been talking about the idea of a Marvel MMO, because beyond everything he just said, the Marvel Universe was kind of born as the first truly interactive pop culture thing. That when Stan Lee was bringing up the Marvel Universe, the bullpen bulletins and the old comics and just the way he engaged the audience, he made you feel like you were part of it. It was very unique. It was not done before, So the MMO is like an extension of that. It's a continuation of that interaction, that everyone feels part of it, or everyone feels a very close affinity. So we had to come up with a story that allowed characters from all walks of the Marvel Universe to engage the story on some level, or on any level that they wanted to. And so we came up with a story. First of all, we needed a bad guy. We needed a bad guy that could take us from the gritty streets of Marvel, my favorite part of Marvel, all the way up to the cosmic crazy god area. And the idea of the baddest bad guy, Dr. Doom, with the biggest weapon, the cosmic cube, as your bad guy, that's literally just pouring plot all over the Marvel Universe, seemed really intriguing to us. And me and Andy Collins, who's right here, is the lead story designer, and we started cooking. We started cooking this, and actually I wrote them like a script of that ended up being the opener of the game. I won't spoil it what it is, but it shows Dr. Doom doing something so awful, so shocking, that you've never actually seen in the Marvel comics, that there's no way you don't continue to play. You got to play now. Look what Dr. Doom just did. So we'll take the story from the gritty streets of Hell's Kitchen and take you all the way through every corner of the Marvel Universe as you chase down clues and weapons and characters, all the way up to whatever Dr. Doom is up to with his cosmic cube.
So one thing we're really excited about is, continuing partnership. The awesome thing about an MMO is that as soon as we launch, we're not done, right? So we get to continue onwards. And of course, Marvel is in the business of serial storytelling. They've been doing it for over 50 years. Brian, my next slide, hopefully speaks to your heart, as it's another plug for
thank you.
All New X-Men.
God bless you. On sale in November.
Do you want to maybe say anything about characters from All New X-Men or situations? I mean, are you looking forward to the possibility of crossing over between the comics and the?
Oh yeah, no. This is where it gets good, because Marvel is its own studio. Marvel is its own licensor. So it's not like one of those things where someone just sells their license to some game company and you're on your own, guys, good luck. And we're all involved. We're all like, so I get to come to, first of all, the real reason they hired me is I come see them every couple of months and I tell them what's going to happen in the comics in 6 months, and they'll go, awesome. And then, so that's really why I got hired. But truthfully, we, as some of you, if you're into your comics, know, that Marvel's about to engage in a giant situation called Marvel Now, where almost every single book in the Marvel Universe is going to alter dramatically, and with all new creative teams and all new stories that launch our characters into whole new situations. I've known about it for about a year and a half. I've told them about it for about a year and a half, so they are prepared to act accordingly, and that's great, because as the MMO grows and grows, it will grow with the movies, with the TV shows, with the comics as they go, and there's all kinds of opportunities for interaction and co-opting story and being part of, making the events more than just events in publishing or the events in movies, but in events on all kinds of formats, completely based on character and story. So
I just found out about it like an hour ago, so they never tell me anything.
Taking you by surprise. Yeah, we are thinking ahead. Some of you guys might have been as excited as we were. I've been at Gazillion twice for weird reasons, but it was probably about it was literally in the first week I was on the job, and TQ came down to the office with Javon Frazier from the Marvel marketing side of things, and they pull this PowerPoint deck out, and they're kind of they're going through it. They're like, yeah, so we've got Thor 2, we've got Cap 2, and I'm just like, yeah, I know all this. This is it. And they're like, and then Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm just like, what? So yeah, I mean, we may have possibly put Rocket Raccoon in the game. Because again, he's awesome. A talking squirrel that likes to shoot people is awesome. So mark my words, and TQ will back me up on this, and I'm sure Brian will back me up on this. Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be, I hope it's as big as Avengers, if not bigger. It's going to be pretty.
Well, it certainly could be Marvel Star Wars.
I was going to use that phrase, but I didn't want to.
No, I mean, it could be. I mean, back like 30 years ago when Star Wars was this cool thing, it could be that. That Star Wars.
It could be cool Star
Not
Wars?
a prequel Star Wars, an original, like Empire Strikes Back.
4, 5, 6.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I found a room with a bunch of Jar Jar Binks fans. Sorry. Apologize.
Those are fighting words. All right. So we've talked a little bit about story, and obviously we've got Brian to write it, but we have to tell that story in some way. And the answer is that we do it through a method that we like to call. We don't do it this way. We don't do it as with speech bubbles. I know, that might have been cool, but we do it this way with motion comics. And you won't be surprised, given that he's written everything else in the Marvel Universe for the last decade. This is another fine Marvel Bendis creation.
I didn't create the motion comics.
Well, but you did the hard work, you know. I mean, putting Spider-Woman out there, and then later on we had Iron Man Extremis, and of course Astonishing X-Men motion comics. But this is actually the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time the motion comic has been created originally and not been adapted from an existing source. Is that right? I hear that?
For the game?
Yeah.
Let's just say yes.
And then you can correct me after the panel. And now we're going to hand over to Josh, our art director, and also Mr. Motion Comics, and he's going to talk a little bit about the process.
So I imagine most people are familiar, but so motion comics are comic art panels that with limited animation, voiceover, and sound, so they're set to time. So they're pretty engaging format to tell the story. We're working all original artwork being created, and we're working with a bunch of Marvel artists, which is really a lot of fun working with these guys. So we got Ron Lim doing some pencils, doing a lot of pencils, doing great work. Sean Chen, Sanford Green, and Matt Clark. They're a few of the pencilers we're working with. We also have Scott Hanna doing some inks. And on colors, we have John Roche and Christopher Sotomayor are doing a lot of the color work on here.
So this is a process that's very similar to traditional comics, right? And you start with pencils and then go from there.
Yeah, it is very similar. There are some slight changes. Some of you might have noticed that on the pencil drawings, we didn't have backgrounds in there. A lot of the artwork is drawn in separate layers, which enables us to have things like depth. We can use depth of field techniques and have motion by having the characters separated. So it creates a little bit more dynamic scene that we can move by having these separate elements. So that is a little bit different for the comic artist to work with. So the process starts with the script from Brian, and then we go into the storyboarding in-house, where we work through the storytelling in terms of what's going to work. There's some limitations in the medium, and so we have to kind of pick like what are our shots going to be to tell the story over time versus on the page. And this is where it's a highly iterative process where we start with really, a lot of times, rough scribbles, which you'll see here.
I drew this one.
Where we'll in meetings, we'll go from this, and it'll eventually become the polished comic art, which ends up looking like that. So it's quite an amazing transformation that takes place, and it's fun because we're working through the story, trying to tell it as compellingly as possible. So it's a lot of fun. And then we take with the storyboards, we cut an animatic where an animatic is basically taking the pictures, putting them over a timeline with voiceover tracks, sometimes some music to get it all put together so we can kind of get a sense of how it's playing out. We have some 3D sequences and some 3D elements in there, as well as 3D camera moves to bring in more depth where we can as well. And then we have a animation studio called Sequence Group in Canada, where they take all the pieces we've put together, the animatic, all the different layers, all this comic artwork. We send it to them, and then they put it all together in their software, and then we get it back, and we get to see the final product, which is pretty fun. Except there's one more step, which is very important, which is that we then it goes through a whole big audio pass, and I'll let Matt Group talk about that.
So yeah, for audio, I mean, like, all of our storytelling, we want to get it as in line with all the other Marvel things that are happening in the universe, so Marvel fans will feel right at home when they jump into our game. So New Generation Pictures is doing our audio design for the motion comics. You guys might know them from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. They did all of the audio design on that, so the way that they treat their voice, we'll have our voice treated too, so you guys will feel right at home. So it's good stuff. Also, they do a lot of anime as well, so if there's anime fans out there, woo!
And a lot of the actors are people know.
Yeah,
from
yeah,
all
definitely. Also, a lot of we're jumping ahead a little bit, but it's
Sorry.
yeah, a lot of our voice actors are people who you'll be familiar with from Wolverine and the X-Men or X-Men Evolution, even some of the '90s cartoon shows.
Let's see if we can get these guys to show us their voice actor knowledge. So, of course, we have Wolverine in the game. Now, does anyone recognize this voice?
I'm the best there is at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice.
Any guesses? Steve Bloom is correct. From Wolverine and the X-Men, X-Men Legends 2, and anything else where Wolverine needed a voice, pretty much. Another character who's actually playable here on the show floor. Who is this?
The ever-loving blue-eyed thing at your service.
This one's a little bit more obscure. Good guess, but wrong. His name is David Boat. He's done the voice of Thing for Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Avengers. Now, this next one, I think even his name is probably a giveaway, so I'm just going to give you a face. But, wow. We have some fans here. I was going to say, you might be able to guess from this video.
Feeling weak, like puny Banner.
Slight giveaway there at the end. Yeah. Fred, of course, did the voice of Hulk in Marvel Ultimate Alliance and Ultimate Spider-Man. And then we have this voice.
Well done. Now go fetch me an espresso.
Any guesses on who that is? It is Emma Frost, and being played by Carrie Walgren, who does the voice of Emma Frost in Wolverine, the X-Men, and X-Men Destiny. So once we've got voiceover, we've got motion comics, and obviously we've got the actual game itself. You put it all together, and it looks a bit like this new trailer, which I'm about to show to you. This is a world first here at PAX. I would be lying if I said this was planned, but it just turns out to be the location that Brian happens to like, which is handy for us. So enjoy.
Hell's Kitchen. All I want is for this city to breathe free. Free of corruption. Free of crime. But the streets of this city, crawling with lowlifes. Costume criminals run rampant. For every one of us, there seems to be 10 of them. And all of it clenched in the thick fingers of the kingpin of crime. It's time. It's time to take the city back.
So we introduced a few more playable characters there. Number one at the top, did anyone guess that it was Daredevil before he actually got revealed? He sounded like he was really upset. Daredevil is voiced by Brian Bloom, who did the voice of Daredevil in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And of course, also in that trailer, we introduced Mr. Frank Castle himself, the Punisher. Shown here in his modern costume. Of course, like every other character in the game, he has a lot of other alternate costumes, so those of you who prefer the original old-school style spandex, you're going to be happy to. And there was another character in there that you'll probably have to go watch the video again to catch. Deadpool's definitely in the game, but we announced Deadpool quite a while ago. In fact, you can go see all of the announced characters at marvelheroes.com. However, there was one character who hasn't been announced before now, although Brian may have mentioned her in passing, so this is an exclusive here to PAX. This is a character who many people would probably say you could never care for, but Brian, being the amazing writer he is, managed to not only make us care for her, but he managed to put her on the cover of the new Avengers. Yes! Yes, Squirrel Girl is in the game. Now, before you say anything, this is a lady who took down Doctor Doom, if I'm not mistaken.
Galactus?
She's pretty serious. And of course, she is voiced, and we think we have a very appropriate actress for the role, so see if you can guess who this is.
Yay, squirrel time!
Wow, you guys are real good. That is correct. Tara Strong is the voice of Squirrel Girl in the game. All right, I just want to say thank you to everybody who turned up here on the panel. I know they're all super busy, especially Brian, who's got to go home and return to his solitary
Yeah, stare at a wall in my basement.
So thank you very much to everybody who appeared
Thank
here.
you very much, guys.
But I do have just one more thing that I wanted to mention. We did want to come here and leave you guys with an announcement of some description, so I'm very happy to say here at PAX that Marvel Heroes is going to go into closed beta as of October 1st, 2012. So you guys, or some of you guys hopefully, will get a chance to play the game before anybody else. You can go to the website today and there's a sign-up box on the front page of the website. All you have to do is leave us your email, or if you want, you can come by the booth here at PAX and you can give your email address to one of the guys there, and we'll put your name in the hat, and we'll be doing a traditional, beta process, beta, English, where we'll be gradually adding more people over time. But everyone is going to get a chance to play a little sooner than you might think. So thanks very much for coming, and tell all your friends about us.